Alright, much better. What's going on, dudes and dudettes? It is Deadbolt here, bringing you some more SCP reactions, and today we are reacting to SCP-178 3D specs, and it's Euclid. Intangible SCP. Okay, so the thumbnail had like 3D glasses on them, you know, the old style ones, you know, the blue and red lens ones, which I remember when I was a kid. I think I went to one movie that was like that, and I don't think I ever wanted to go to one again, because I was like, well, now I need to watch the movie in red and blue, like why? And then they finally switched to those clear lens 3D glasses, and now I've never even like see advertisements for 3D movies anymore. It's usually just IMAX, and that's it. IMAX and standard. But yeah, I don't know what this SCP is, so let's get into it. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Miller, and the SCP we're going to be studying today is SCP-178. Object Class, Euclid. Special Containment Procedures.
Wait, I'm gonna try to turn this into a thing where like I try to guess what the SCP does before it starts. But if I had to guess, you know, I haven't read anything on the right side yet. It says intangible, so I'm guessing when you put on these 3D glasses, it turns you intangible. Like I don't think this will be an SCP about 3D glasses that just are intangible, like, because then they wouldn't really exist. There he is. But if I had to guess, these glasses turn you intangible.
SCP-178 is to be stored in a Class 3 anomalous object container guarded by no fewer than 2 armed personnel with Level 3 clearance when not undergoing testing. Item is to be removed from containment only with written permission of personnel with Level 4 clearance or higher. Following Incident 178-14 Alpha, all tests are to be monitored remotely, and the presence of all personnel, apart from test subjects, in the testing area during experimentation is expressly prohibited.
Well, I want to figure out what this incident was.
SCP-178 is a pair of white stereoscopic 3D glasses with a rectangular white cardboard frame and lenses of transparent blue and red, left and right lenses respectively, plastic. The item exhibits no unusual physical properties, apart from a slight discoloration of the cardboard consistent with age. When worn, the wearer begins perceiving large bipedal entities in addition to its ordinary surroundings. Entities reportedly exhibit a docile and occasionally curious behavior. Reports include entities leaning over the shoulder of persons working and observing them with interest.
Oh, that's
with
creepy.
One exception. Any attempt by the wearer or any other personnel, see Incident Report 178-14 Alpha,
they become hostile,
to directly interact with the entities results in severe lacerations suddenly appearing on persons involved.
Oh,
the appearance of lacerations is rapid and continues until the moment the wearer expires. The pattern of lacerations is always consistent, with being slashed with 3 parallel, tapered sharp objects of lengths varying between 14.2 and 27.4 centimeters, and maximum thickness varying between 2.9 and 8.1 centimeters. Recording and measuring devices used during testing failed to detect any anomalies, including while lacerations were appearing on subjects. Subjects do not report hearing any sounds emanating from the entities. Long-term observation of subjects exposed to the item reveals no lasting effects. Stereoscopic images viewed through the item appear 3-dimensional.
What the heck, man? Why couldn't these beings that they see just be friendly? Like, why can't they just be like dogs or something, you know, just friendly dogs that you see when you put on these glasses and they just chill? But no, as soon as you try to pet them, they just start carving you up like freaking tuna.
お前はなんでこんなことをすると俺に問うたな。その理由をお前に話したところで何も変わりはしないだろう。
何よ。
Like, why? That's not cool. they said they're bipedal, but they didn't say they were human, which kind of creeps me out. That's like what creeps me out the most, like seeing another humanoid figure that isn't human when you put these things on. And also, why does it say intangible? What? Okay.
Addendum
Let's get back
1.
into it.
Item was recovered in Tennessee by agent operating as a deep cover agent in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, who arrived in the town following reports of a year-old child being found dead in her second-floor bedroom, apparently as a result of an unusual mauling. Agent noticed a blood-stained stereoscopic image of a Ferris wheel adjacent to where the child was discovered. After some searching, found the item under the child's bed where it had apparently been thrown during the child's death throes. Agent then proceeded to call a recovery team to his location. Following the recovery team's arrival, Agent wore the item and looked at the image, reporting nothing unusual until he turned his head to his left, whereupon he noticed an entity approximately an inch from his face leaning over his shoulder and looking at the stereoscopic image.
Punched in the face immediately. If I turn and somebody is just like this, if I turn and somebody is just staring at me like that, just boot in the nuts and then kick in the face. No, you don't get that close to me like that. An inch away from his face. Nah, not fam.
In the debriefing, Agent reported also noticing several other entities in the room, observing him and the recovery team.
Also, do these things just exist in our world? They're just like on a different plane of existence or something? Because like, or do they just like spawn with the glasses? Like, they go wherever the glasses go, pretty much. Because like, if they just exist, that's kind of cool, actually. Like,
Agent refrained from attempting to interact with the entities, and the item was recovered without incident. Addendum 2. All experiments are to be logged in file 178E. Experiment 178E1. Name, Dr. with Dr. and Dr. assisting. Date, 19. Procedure. D-class subject is to be placed in secured test chamber containing SCP-178. The test chamber is to be observed via bulletproof glass window to adjacent control room and via audio and video recording devices. D-class subject will be instructed to wear SCP-178 and report what it observes until told otherwise.
yeesh.
Results. Subject D17831, male, 41, no discernible mental abnormalities. Is placed in the chamber and told to wear SCP-178. Subject is not told of SCP-178's nature.
I'm sorry, D17831. I'm sorry. Like, I understand he's probably a criminal, but still, what's about to happen to you ain't gonna be pretty.
Subject does as instructed, then immediately expresses distress by throwing SCP-178 away and covering its eyes while vocalizing fear. Research staff instructs subject to describe the source of its distress. Subject unresponsive.
What?
Research staff attempts to calm subject. Subject responds by uncovering its face and looking around, appearing still to be distressed. Research staff instructs the subject once again to describe the source of its distress. Subject responds by stating the presence of an unfamiliar entity in close proximity to its face the moment it wore SCP-178.
Punch to the
Research
face.
staff instructs subject to describe the entity in detail. Subject responds by stating entity was hideous and had too many eyes.
Oof, no.
Research staff instructs subject to describe the entity in greater detail. Subject states it did not manage to perceive many details before removing SCP-178. Research staff instructs subject to wear 178. The subject uncooperative. Research staff repeats instruction. Subject uncooperative. Research staff threatens subject with termination unless it cooperates. Subject uncooperative. Testing is ended, and subject is placed under surveillance to test for long-lasting symptoms of exposure. Subject displays symptoms of mild paranoia for 2 days before returning to normal behavioral patterns.
Yeah.
Surveillance ended after 30 days, and subject terminated.
Why? Why did he have to die? You sent that man into a room, made him look into a new plane of reality where there's beings with freaking, I don't know how many eyes, too many apparently, and now he's justifiably paranoid of his surroundings, and he's just like, nah man, I just want to leave, like, can I just go back to my cell?
I like Fortnite.
Like, I'm okay with freaking solitary confinement, and they're just like, alright, time to die.
Do you like Fortnite?
Like, what? Why? These stories never have a good ending. There's never like, and the D class went on to live a long and happy life. Like, I get they're probably a criminal,
Murder is fun.
but still, they don't deserve to go out like that.
Well, this wasn't very informative, but at least it confirms we have an actual anomalous object in our hands. Experiment 178E2. Name, Dr. with Dr. and Dr. assisting. Date, 19. Procedure. D-class subject is to be placed in secured test chamber containing SCP-178. The test chamber is to be observed via bulletproof glass window to adjacent control room and via audio and video recording devices. D-class subject will be instructed to wear SCP-178 and report what it observes until told otherwise. Results. D63164, female, 31, no discernible mental abnormalities, is placed in the chamber and instructed to wear SCP-178. Subject is not told of SCP-178's true nature. Subject does as instructed and immediately begins emitting expletives and walking backwards towards the chamber's wall, looking intently at something to 1 o'clock. Research staff instructs subject to describe what it's seeing. Subject presses its back to chamber wall and describes seeing an entity standing halfway across the test chamber by the wall, looking at the wall. Research staff instructs subject to describe the entity in detail. Subject states the entity is bipedal, possesses 2 additional upper appendages, and large conical protrusions and a smooth head. Research staff instructs subject to provide additional details. Subject begins describing the entity and then suddenly expresses distress, stating, "Oh God, it's looking right at me." Subject collapses against the test chamber wall, still staring in the same direction. Research staff inquires as to whether the entity is exhibiting hostility or not. Subject states that it is not moving, but looking at it. Subject instructed to remove SCP-178. Subject refuses, stating that it does not trust the entity. Subject reminded that uncooperative behavior will result in termination. Subject removes SCP-178 and begins looking around the test chamber in distress, stating that it can no longer see the entity. Subject instructed to wear SCP-178. Subject complies and states that the entity is still looking at it. Subject instructed to report any changes in the entity's behavior. 2 minutes and 37 seconds pass before subject states the entity is no longer looking at it. Subject states entity is looking at the wall again. Subject reports no further changes for 17 minutes and 55 seconds. Test ended.
At least she lives. I mean, you know, I thought like as soon as like it started looking at her, it was gonna be like, okay, and now it's time to chop you up. Break out the tuna knife, the fish fillet knife, and start cutting you up. But no, I guess it was just like, I'll let you live, even though you saw me. Yeah, I mean, that's creepy. I would be just like her in that situation. Just keep it on. Like, as long as I got my eyes on you, you cannot hurt me, you know?
Notes. It seems strange that the thing the subject saw was so disinterested, given the way the item came into Foundation attention. We didn't pick anything up in any of the recording equipment either. I wonder if this entity is really there or an illusion generated by the item.
True.
Experiment 178.
Some genjutsu over here.
Name, Dr. with Dr. and Dr. assisting.
Doctor.
Date,
Doctor and
19.
doctor. Oops.
Procedure. D-class subject is to be placed in secured test chamber containing SCP-178. The test chamber is to be observed via bulletproof glass window to adjacent control room and via audio and video recording devices. A fractal blue and red image is to be placed on one wall of the test chamber, and a plastic bin containing 10 standard tennis balls is to be placed near the opposite wall. D-Class subject will be told SCP-178 is an experiment in next-generation 3D specs, and that staring at the fractal image while wearing SCP-178 will allow it to see animated 3-dimensional images.
You guys are so freaking scummy. So they're gonna think that the entity they see is just a 3D illusion, and they're gonna throw a tennis ball at it, aren't they? And then that's what's gonna kill him. Oh my god, I feel so bad for this guy. He's just going in thinking, alright, freaking VR, yeah. And I get to throw some tennis balls at this, bad guy, and now he has freaking, his intestines are on the floor. Shake my head. Why does the SCP Foundation have to be like this? It feels so realistic.
D-Class subject will then be instructed to wear SCP-178 and report what it observes. In case the subject perceives any entities, it will be instructed to throw a tennis ball at them.
Oh my god, why?
Results.
I was right.
D51441. Male, 27. Arson, murder, no discernible mental abnormalities. Is instructed
Okay,
to
he's
stand
scum.
at the end of the test chamber, opposite
still.
the fractal image, and wear SCP-178. Subject complies and expresses surprise and discomfort. Subject instructed to describe what it perceives. Subject states it perceives 2 entities standing in the room. One, from now on referred to as Entity 1, next to the fractal image with its back to the subject, and the other, from now on referred to as Entity 2, crossing the room from left to right. Subject opines that the person who designed the animation is mentally unbalanced. Subject instructed to describe Entity 2's gait. Subject states it walks using both its legs and upper appendages. Subject equates Entity 2's gait to that of a gorilla, if someone put its skeleton together wrong. Research staff inquires whether both entities are similar. Subject replies that apart from size, they appear to be generally similar. Subject then proceeds to describe entities fitting the description of the entity in Experiment 178E2. Subject instructed to pick up 1 tennis ball and throw it at Entity 2. Subject complies. Both the research staff and the audio recording devices observe the ball moving uninterrupted until it hits the floor on the opposite side of the test chamber. Subject expresses surprise and distress, attempting to back away for 0.7 seconds before severe lacerations begin appearing on its body. Appearance of lacerations continues for 4.7 seconds, until subject presumably expires from massive bleeding and trauma. Autopsy on expired subject reveals lacerations consistent with being slashed by 3 sharp objects, relatively thick and tapering to a point approximately 17 centimeters in length and 4 centimeters in maximum width. Analysis of ball thrown by subject discovers only trace amounts of human sweat, matching subject D51441. Notes. Holy. It would appear that these things don't like being disturbed. On the other hand, that ball sailed through the air like nothing was there.
Yeah.
With the death of the subject, we cannot know if it indeed passed where the entity was or not. This is still far from conclusive, but the pattern of laceration matches the findings at the item's recovery site, so at least we've established beyond any doubt that it is dangerous. It's interesting to note that, so far, the entities are pretty consistent in appearance. Despite variance between test subjects, I wonder if any non-violent interaction between the subject and the entities is possible.
That's what I was thinking, like, because it didn't care when the lady saw it. Like, they made eye contact and they didn't care. But this guy throws a tennis ball, and like, if somebody throws a tennis ball at you, you'd be like, hey man, the hell? Like, come on now, that's not on. But, what if you just tried to talk to it? Would they also just be like, would they just choose violence automatically? Like, is that just their go-to, like, defense mechanism, just violence?
Experiment 178E4. Name, Dr. with Dr. and Dr. assisting. Date, 19. Procedure. D-Class subject is to be placed in secured test chamber containing SCP-178. Test chamber is to be observed via bulletproof glass window adjacent to control room, via audio and video recording devices, via infrared cameras, electromagnetic radiation sensors, and motion detectors. A fractal blue and red image is to be placed on one wall of the test chamber. D-Class subject will be told SCP-178 is an experiment in next-generation 3D specs, and that staring at the fractal image while wearing SCP-178 will allow it to see three-dimensional images. D-Class subject will then be instructed to wear SCP-178 and report what it observes. In case the subject perceives any entities, it will be instructed to attempt to speak with them. Results: D84291.
Yeah.
Female.
She's
19,
young.
no discernible mental abnormality.
She better not die.
Is instructed to stand near the wall opposite of the fractal image and wear SCP-178. Subject complies and immediately expresses revulsion. Subject instructed to describe what it perceives. Subject describes one entity similar to those previously reported, standing approximately 2 meters from it and looking at it. Subject instructed to attempt to speak to it. Subject appears confused as to why it would attempt to speak to an animated image. Research staff repeats instruction. Subject expresses irritation and says, "Hello, weird thing.
Oh no.
How are you today?" in a bored manner. Lacerations begin appearing on the subject's torso and abdomen 0.2 seconds after subject finishes speaking. Subject's right arm severed above the elbow after 2.4 seconds. Laceration and subject vocalization stops after 8.4 seconds when the subject presumably expires.
She just wanted to know how he was doing. It's not cool.
The same kind of lacerations, indicating sharp objects approximately 21 centimeters in length and 5 centimeters in width. Notes: I guess that means we can assume that any attempt to interact with the entities ends in hostility, and nothing on any of the sensors either. We're establishing a pattern here, but the main question is still whether the death of the subjects is caused by the item or by external entities. I wonder if subjects not wearing the item can be affected by it. Experiment 178 E.
Like if you had somebody wearing the glasses and just be like they point out where they are, and if the person next to them tries to interact with them.
5.
Okay.
Name: Dr. with Dr. and Dr.
I know. Doctor, and doctor.
19. Procedure: 2 D-Class subjects are to be placed in secured test chamber containing SCP-178. The test chamber is to be observed via bulletproof glass window to adjacent control room, via audio and video recording devices, via infrared cameras, electromagnetic radiation sensors, and motion detectors. Both subjects will have general knowledge of the properties of SCP-178. One subject, designated Subject 1, will be instructed to wear SCP-178
I was right.
and will describe to the other subject, designated Subject 2, the location and appearance of any perceived entities in the test chamber. Subject 2 will then attempt to interact with the entities. Results: Subject 1, D61955.
See, how come they describe their, their murder history, their criminal history in some of them, but in others they're just like, yeah, this one's 27 and there's no discernible mental abnormalities. And that's it. Like, that makes me feel bad even for the 19-year-old, because they didn't have that either. So like, what if they were just some normal, person they picked up off the street?
Female.
I feel so bad.
3 counts of murder, grievous bodily harm, no discernible mental abnormality. And Subject 2.
No discernible mental abnormality. She murdered 3 people and bodily harmed them as well. That screams mental abnormality if ever I've seen it.
2-1. Female. 27. No discernible mental abnormalities. Are placed in the test chamber. Subject 1 instructed to wear SCP-178. Subject 1 expresses dislike for the research staff. Subject 2 concurs. Research staff reminds both subjects that uncooperative behavior is grounds for termination. Subject 1 wears SCP-178 and begins emitting expletives. Subject 2 expresses distress and inquires as to the reason for Subject 1's consternation. Subject 1 states that there's one right behind you. Subject 2 turns around and states that it cannot see anything unusual. Research staff calms both subjects by assuring them that the perceived entities are harmless and instructs Subject 1 to assist Subject 2 in making contact with the entities. Subject 1 states that there is an entity about a foot in front of her, and that the entity's head is about 2 feet taller than her. Subject 2 inquires whether the entity is looking at it. Subject 1 replies in the affirmative. Subject 2 attempts to calm itself and proceeds to look where it considers the entity's head to be and say, hi there? Lacerations immediately begin appearing on Subject 2's torso and face for 0.9 seconds before Subject 2's neck is severed. Subject 1 vocalizes acute distress and runs towards the test chamber door. Subject 1 attempts to bludgeon the door open unsuccessfully for 5 seconds before turning around and saying, presumably to a perceived entity, "No, get away." Subject 1 begins suffering lacerations across the abdomen and torso. Movement, laceration, and vocalization cease simultaneously after 17.3 seconds. Autopsy on expired subjects revealed 2 different laceration patterns. The relatively few lacerations suffered by Subject 2 are consistent with lacerations caused by 3 sharp objects approximately 27 centimeters in length and 8 centimeters in maximum width, while the many lacerations suffered by Subject 1 are consistent with lacerations caused by 3 sharp objects approximately 14 centimeters in length and 3 centimeters in width. Note.
Okay, well, we still don't know whether the entities are actually there or if they're just illusions caused by SCP-178. Do you need to know, though? All you need to know is that it's killing people and that it probably needs to be destroyed, or just put into a box and just kept in a closet, you know? You don't need to know if they're actually there or not. Oh my god. The SCP Foundation, man, and their experiments.
We still don't know whether the entities are actually there or illusions caused by SCP-178, but now we know that they can affect more than the wearer. This means that this object is potentially much more dangerous than we initially surmised. Interestingly enough, the 2 subjects showed different laceration patterns, as though they were inflicted by different entities. A shame we didn't ask Subject 1 about the number of entities in the room. We'll do better next time. It is also possible that Subject wouldn't have been harmed if she hadn't addressed the entities herself. That's also worth checking out. Experiment 178E6. Name, Dr. with Dr. and Dr. assisting. Date, 19. Procedure. 2 D-class subjects are to be placed in secured test chamber containing SCP-178. The test chamber is to be observed via bulletproof glass window to adjacent control room, via audio and video recording devices, via infrared cameras, electromagnetic radiation sensors, and motion detectors. Both subjects will have general knowledge of the properties of SCP-178. One subject, designated Subject 1, will be instructed to wear SCP-178 and will describe to the other subject, designated Subject 2, the location and appearance of any perceived entities in the test chamber. Subject 2 will then attempt to interact with the entities. Subject 1 will be instructed not to speak or otherwise interact with entities at any eventuality. To ensure this, Subject 1 will be told that any attempt to make contact with the entities will result in termination. Results. Subject 1, DA3616, male, 44, no discernible mental abnormality. And Subject 2, D36176, male, 52, no discernible mental abnormalities, are placed in the test chamber.
A criminal
Subject
record
1
this
is
time.
instructed to wear SCP-178. Subject 1 uncooperative. Subject 1 instructed again to wear SCP-178. Subject 1 uncooperative. Subject 2 urges Subject 1 to cooperate for fear of punitive measures. Subject 1 wears SCP-178 and expresses surprise and disgust. Research staff inquires as to the number of entities. Subject 1 states, "They're everywhere, Doc. There's 9 of them here with us." Subject 1 then turns to look at the bulletproof glass window separating the test chamber from the control room and states, "And there's 3 in there with you." Look, there's one leaning right over your...
Huh.
See Incident Report 17814 Alpha.
They probably
for
killed
more
the research,
information.
maybe?
Notes. Following the loss of all research staff in Incident 17814 Alpha, the containment protocols
Damn.
have been revised. 057. Experiment 178E7. Name, Dr. with Dr. assisting. Date,
Oh, so they live, though.
2000.
Or, well, one of the doctors died.
D-Class subject is to be placed in secured test chamber containing SCP-178. The test chamber is to be divided into 2 partitions in a 5-to-1 ratio, with the smaller portion containing the chamber entrance separated by bulletproof glass with a small hole in the middle covered in steel mesh to allow the passage of sound from one partition to the other. The test chamber will be observed remotely via audio and video recording devices, via infrared cameras, electromagnetic radiation sensors, and motion detectors. Subject is to be told of SCP-178's nature and instructed to wear SCP-178 and attempt to communicate with entities on the other side of the partition. Results. Subject D13627. Male. 52. Rape. Double homicide. No discernible
At least he
mental
deserves to die.
abnormalities. Is placed in the test chamber and instructed to wear SCP-178. Subject expresses displeasure but complies. Subject instructed to describe what it perceives. Subject describes 4 entities in the other partition. Subject states entities look docile, 2 of them jabbing the walls and the other 2 looking at it through the glass.
They just chill. I
Research
like
staff
that.
inquires whether
Until
any
they
entities
don't.
are present in the subject's partition. The subject looks around and replies that none are present. Subject instructed to attempt to communicate with the entities. Subject expresses desire to get this over with. Subject says, presumably towards the perceived entities, "Hello, can you hear me?" before recoiling suddenly. Research staff inquires as to the reason the subject recoiled. The subject replies that the entities have begun pounding the glass with their upper appendages. Research staff inquires whether they are succeeding in causing any visible damage to the partition. Subject replies they are not. Audio recordings fail to pick up any sounds apart from those emitted by the subject. Research staff inquires whether the subject can hear the entities pounding on the partition. Subject appears perplexed and replies to the negative. No changes occur for 10 minutes and 14 seconds. Research staff announces the end of the experiment. Subject expresses relief and removes SCP-178, placing it on the floor. Testing chamber door opens and 2 security personnel, agent, demand that the subject comes with them, presumably to D-Class cells.
So he gets to
Subject
live?
turns towards door and begins complying
Oh, wait.
when lacerations begin appearing across his face, torso, and upper arms. Subject vocalizes distress, and both security personnel recoil and emit expletives. Agent radios a containment breach. Agent begins firing his weapon into the chamber, hitting and killing the subject after 2.1 seconds of being lacerated.
But that was a long time
Containment
ago.
teams are mobilized to the
When you
testing
talk to
area
it.
and the sector goes into lockdown. Searches are concluded after an hour and 4 minutes without any findings or further incidents, and lockdown is lifted. SCP-178 is found where subject D13627 dropped it. Note: that could have been catastrophic. First time we get to experiment on SCP-178 and the whole sector goes into lockdown. The brass aren't going to be pleased. I think we should come up with some lower risk experiments for the foreseeable future. I guess anywhere that attempts to establish contact with the entities can die even after removing SCP-178. It's
Yeah.
interesting to note that Agent suffered no ill effect despite firing at the entity. I estimate
Right.
it's because he had only very limited knowledge about the entities observed by those who wear the item.
Unless they stop
Experiment
existing.
178E8. Name, Dr. with Dr. assisting. Date, 2000. Procedure. D-Class subject is to be placed in secured test chamber containing SCP-178 and a video camera connected to monitor. The test
But just imagine that D-Class. Like, he was just like, huh, there are some aliens over there. And now that this experiment is done, I'm gonna just go chill in my cell, you know? Wait out my sentence. And as soon as he's about to go back, just he starts getting gutted, just in the doorway. Just damn, I really thought I was good. I thought I was just gonna go chill, watch Gilmore Girls in my cell, eat some ice cream, and that was it. But nope, gutted in the doorway. That's how he went out.
Test chamber is to be observed remotely via audio and video recording devices.
And also, I'm leaning more on they're probably just illusions. Either they're illusions or these glasses peer into another dimension type thing. That's what I'm getting at with this.
Red cameras, electromagnetic radiation sensors, and motion detectors. Subject is to be instructed to hold SCP-178 up to the camera and report what it sees on the monitor. The camera is both connected to the monitor and to an external recording device. Pending the success of the experiment, the research staff will submit a request to view the recording. Results. Subject D61286, female, 28, 15 counts of grievous bodily harm, 2 counts of murder, no discernible mental abnormalities.
No, at least she deserves to die too.
Chamber and instructed
so
to
young though.
SCP-178 and hold it up to the camera. Subject complies and holds SCP-178 approximately 20 centimeters from the camera. Subject instructed to hold SCP-178 up to the camera so that it sees through it. Subject inquires as to which lens it should hold it to. Subject instructed to hold the red lens up to the camera. Subject complies. Research staff
I think you need both,
whether
no?
the monitor displays anything unusual. Subject replies to the negative. Subject instructed to hold the blue lens up to the camera. Subject complies and reports that the monitor still does not display anything unusual. Subject instructed to put down the camera and wear SCP-178. Subject complies. Subject vocalizes acute distress, stumbling backwards while staring at the monitor. Research staff inquires as to the source of the subject's distress. Subject reports 3 entities crouched in front of the monitor, looking at it.
It requires 2 eyes.
Subject instructed to remove SCP-178. Test ended. Notes. It would appear that either the item functions similarly to ordinary stereoscopic glasses and requires 2 eyes, or that the effect isn't merely optic. There's a way to test that.
Oh shit.
Experiment 178E9. Name: Dr. with Dr. assisting. Date: non-applicable. Proposed: 20. Procedure: D-class subject placed in secure test chamber containing SCP-178 and a special mount containing 2 small video cameras simulating a pair of human eyes connected to monitor that splices both images together in real time to create an image, similar to the way stereoscopic sight works.
That's
Test chamber
clever.
observed remotely via audio and video recording devices, via infrared cameras, electromagnetic radiation sensors, and motion detectors. Subject is to be instructed to hold SCP-178 up to the camera and report what he sees on the monitor. The camera is set to record. Pending success, the research staff will submit a request to view the recording. Test proposal awaiting approval by personnel with level 4 clearance or above. Addendum 3. Personnel with level 4 clearance are urged to read Incident Report 178-14 Alpha.
So I'm guessing that didn't go well.
178-14 Alpha is mandatory for all personnel with level 4 clearance or higher, overseeing or approving experiments with the item. Warning: failure to comply with Addendum 3 is grounds for disciplinary measures. Okay. I think that about does it for today. Thank you all for listening.
Very good.
You still are.
That one was really good.
Dismissed. Goodbye.
I like all the experiments that they conducted, actually. Like, this was a really longer video. Normally the ones I get are like, 12, 15 minutes. But man, that was really cool. I'm guessing they tried the stereoscopic camera thingy, and those 2 doctors that were doing the experiments, yeah, it ended badly for them. They got gutted, just like the D-class. But yeah, freaking... Why is it called intangible, though? Oh, is it because those beings that they see are intangible? I guess? That would make sense. My theory on what it was completely wrong, by the way. I could have never guessed that. Ooh, the red pool. I like that one. Oh, and the Reluctant Dimension Hopper. My favorite. But alright guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Oh, and actually, before I go, be sure to like, subscribe to the Volgun. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, good. Bye-bye.